When you think of the Mongol Empire, you probably think of this. Horse archers, conquest, cities being destroyed. One of the most successful military machines in human history, spreading across Eurasia at a speed that was, for the people living through it, probably terrifying. And then you have Maomao, one apothecary. So this seems pretty simple. The Mongols win. Except I think that answer misses something really important about how empires actually work. Because the Mongol Empire was very good at defeating armies. Maomao is not an army. And this is where the question starts to get a little more interesting. Could Maomao actually bring down the Mongol Empire? So before we answer that, I want you to look at what Maomao is actually fighting. Because look at this map. By the middle of the 13th century, the Mongol Empire stretched across an absurd amount of Eurasia. This looks like one enormous, unified political system. But once you actually start looking at how this thing works, the number of people holding the center together is surprisingly small. The Mongols had an incredibly effective military, but all of this still depended on rulers, succession, and the royal family with different branches competing for power. When the person at the center died, things could get complicated very quickly. And this is where Maomao starts to become a problem. Unfortunately for the Mongols, Maomao knows medicine, knows way too much about poison, and has this almost pathological inability to leave suspicious things alone. So forget the army for a second. Maomao's first problem is access. Specifically, access to the court. And weirdly, this is probably the first part of the plan that actually makes sense. Maomao's entire story is basically her ending up near important people, noticing some medical problem nobody else understands, solving it, and then accidentally becoming more valuable than she wanted to be. A member of the ruling family gets sick. The court physicians can't figure it out. Dun, 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 dun. Maomao does. And it works. Now she's useful to the people at the very top. And for the purpose of this extremely serious analysis, we are going to assume Maomao actually wants the Mongol Empire gone. Because this is where history gives her an opening. In 1259, Möngke Khan dies without naming a successor. His brothers Kublai and Ariq Böke both claim power. And what follows is a civil war inside the largest contiguous empire on earth. Maomao, please do not touch anything. Put Maomao inside that court, and things can start compounding very quickly. She's standing next to people whose personal survival can have consequences across thousands of kilometers. And she happens to be extremely good at figuring out what is actually happening when everyone else is guessing. The important part here is timing. Maomao can notice something the court missed, reveal it at the worst possible moment, or simply let one faction learn something before another one does. Inside the succession crisis, that can be enough. Because once the people at the center stop agreeing on what's actually happening, Maomao barely has to push anymore. The system starts doing the work for her. And now the question itself starts to change. Because could Maomao defeat the Mongol Empire in a battle? No. Well, maybe. But put her inside the court at exactly the wrong moment, and suddenly all of these little advantages start interacting with a political crisis that was already happening, then we are talking about something else. We are talking about political fragmentation. And political fragmentation has destroyed empires Maomao could never hope to fight directly. So could Maomao solo the Mongol Empire? Under normal conditions, no. But if soloing the Mongol Empire means destabilizing the political center badly enough that the empire starts pulling itself apart, I think the Mongols have a Maomao problem.